Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something called GraphQL. Now, the author of our source material, Sam Rabuna, calls it a complete game changer for how we handle data on the internet. So let's unpack that. To really get why GraphQL is such a big deal, we've got to go back and look at the problem it was actually built to solve. And it all starts with a frustration that's super common in the world of software development. And trust me, he is not alone. This feeling, it's pretty much universal for developers working with traditional APIs. It really boils down to this fundamental headache and how apps get the data they need to, well, do anything. See, with older APIs, you're usually stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, you've got overfetching. That's like the server sending you this massive, overflowing box of files when really all you needed was one single piece of paper inside. And on the other hand, you have underfetching. This is where you're forced to make trip after trip after trip to the server just to scrape together enough info to load one simple screen. I mean, both are just incredibly inefficient and slow everything way down. So this leads to a pretty important question. What if there was a better way? A way to just sidestep this whole dilemma? Well, this is exactly where GraphQL comes into the story. To put it simply, GraphQL is a whole new way for the apps on your phone or computer to talk to servers. The real breakthrough here is that it gives the app, what we call the client, the power to ask for exactly the data it needs. And I mean exactly, down to the tiniest little detail. Okay, here's a great way to think about it. A traditional API, it's like ordering a combo meal at a fast food place. You get the burger, the fries, the drink, whether you wanted them all or not. That's the deal. But GraphQL, that's like ordering a la carte. You tell the kitchen precisely what you want, just the burger, and that is exactly what they bring to your table. Nothing more, nothing less. All right, so this all sounds fantastic, right? But how does this whole a la carte data thing actually play out in the real world? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the big picture of what's happening during a GraphQL request. It's actually pretty elegant. So what's really cool about this is how GraphQL just sits right in the middle, kind of like this super smart translator. Look at the flow here. On the left, your phone, your laptop, whatever, they send out a single, super specific request. That request hits the GraphQL runtime, and then it does all the heavy lifting. It goes out and talks to all those different databases and services on the right, grabs only what you asked for, and then packages it all up in one neat, tidy response. It just simplifies everything. It's also really important to get that GraphQL isn't just one thing. It's actually three distinct pieces working together perfectly. You've got the specification, which is basically the official rulebook. Then you have the language itself, which is how you write the questions you ask the server. And finally, you have the service, or runtime, which is the engine that actually makes it all happen. And this whole new way of doing things is having a massive impact, not just on the tech, but on how teams of people actually build software together. You see, the biggest win here isn't just that things are more efficient. It fundamentally changes how teams work. The communication between the folks building the app, the front-end developers, and the people managing the data, the back-end developers, suddenly becomes crystal clear. It gives those front-end devs so much more independence, which means the entire team can roll out new features and ideas way, way faster. But, like with any powerful tool, you gotta remember that GraphQL isn't some magic wand you can wave at every single problem. It absolutely comes with its own unique set of challenges that you need to be aware of. For example, security requires a whole new way of thinking, just because the queries are so flexible. The normal ways you might cache data to speed things up, they don't really work out of the box, so you need a new game plan. And yeah, there's a learning curve. Your team has to get up to speed with a whole new language and a new way of thinking about data. So when you weigh the incredible power and flexibility against these very real challenges, where does GraphQL really stand in the grand scheme of things? Well, as our apps get more and more complex and our world gets more and more connected, the ability to ask for exactly the data you need, no more, no less, becomes absolutely critical. So the final question really isn't just about a piece of technology. It's about what we're going to be able to build with it. And we'll leave you with that thought.